Personally, I find it very difficult to judge whether I'm making any steps forward in life. It's only upon reflection of my relatively distant past when I notice that I've been moving at all. Although I can't tell how significant of a distance I've travelled. I've undergone many changes in life, I've grown as a person, but I often question the measure of that growth and its significance. You know, it's like you could fly to the moon, but if your destination's the edge of the galaxy, relatively you've barely moved. When it comes down to mental health, the healing process is the way forward. But it's very easy to feel like you'll never heal, as if you're beyond repair. You're not even sure what's wrong with you, and the more broken you are, the more mistakes you make that break you into even more fragments in need of healing. It seems hopeless because the distance ahead seems vast, and the things to resolve seem endless, and many of those things seem to be invisible, hidden in the shadows of your mind, just waiting for light to be cast on them. I'm 32 now, but in my mid-20s, I'd have intense panic attacks every single day. I was in constant fight or flight mode from the moment I woke up until I went to bed. And at the time I saw no way out, but now my general anxiety is still there, but it's much more manageable. I think the interesting takeaway from this is that this progression was no conscious choice of my own. It just kind of happened, for at the time it felt like my state of mind was set and locked in place. I feel this kind of effortless progression is worth remembering whenever I seem trapped. Although I'm naturally inclined to tell myself that this time's different. This time I really have reached my end and there's nothing ahead of me except stagnation. I do get better at calling out my own bullshit the more times that I witness these milestones, so perhaps that'll get better too with the same effortless growth. The fact that this type of growth is effortless is probably why it's so hard to see, because when we're stuck, we think we have to come up with a solution. We have to make the conscious effort to find our way out, and the weight of our problems makes that seem an impossible task, and so we sink down into a mental pit. But life is moving all the time. There's a process going on that we're a part of that extends beyond the personal. You know, we're often misled by the idea that we, as individual minds, are 100% responsible for our lives and personalities, despite the fact that we weren't responsible for the conditions they originated from. We're not responsible for the world we experience and grow from. From my experience, it's been helpful to expand into the perception that the personal is nothing but an illusion, a mere model of self, and that which moves the entire universe forward is what should truly be regarded as our identity. To trust myself has become trusting reality in its totality. Bearing this mindset, there's no stagnation, as the universe is ever flowing in a constant fluctuation, slow but steady. I've become a better person due to my experiences, which I've had little to no control over. The only apparent control I've had is over my decisions, which, when you really look at it, are driven by unconscious biases and developmental conditions. But either way, I did not control the outcomes, the experiential fruit of my decisions. These experiences have shaped me, and so I've come to learn that I'll have to trust the process of life, the process of me. Now, despite feeling like the personal is an illusion, I still very much operate on a personal level, and so acknowledging that I'm a better person than I was doesn't mean that I believe myself to be a good person. The idea that I'm a terrible person persists, and I think it always will. And to be honest, I don't like the idea of perceiving myself as being a good person, because I see too many flaws. So the only way I could conceive of myself to be good is to be ignorant of those flaws, or to remove them entirely, which is what I've spent my entire life trying to do. But I don't know, maybe the best kind of person is one who, rather than being perfect, is knowingly imperfect. I don't know. I know it seems like I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but I really do think that the way out of stagnation is through perspective, because I think stagnation is another illusion, a very thick and heavy one that becomes monstrous when combined with depression. To me, stagnation is for the mind alone. It belongs to perception, but reality never gets stuck. It always progresses. So even though it really can seem like I'm going nowhere as a person, like the wheels of a car synchronized to the shutter speed of a camera, the reality is that there is movement going on. And that movement is built upon experience, which is passive. You can't escape it. You know, whether these experiences are positive or negative, awareness grows. There is no bad information, and even if you're not conscious of it, you will find in times throughout life that you can tap into that subconscious experience and recall things that help you piece things together in hindsight. And the more experience that's accumulated, the more awareness you have. You know, the higher the resolution of the image of your life is. I know I've spoke a lot about illusions, but there is just one last illusion that I'd like to highlight, and that's the illusion of failure to grow. Growth is a natural process which envelops all things. It's always happening whether you're aware of it or not. I think Groundhog Day is probably my all-time favourite film for many reasons, but a few of those reasons is that it portrays stagnation so well, but also portrays the value of experience and the natural progression of growth from that experience. We all start out in an unknown and chaotic world.
Watch out for that first step, it's a doozy!
But through experience and time, we begin building a picture of what's important. And instead of trying to control the world and, bend it to the ways of our fantasies, we learn to go with the flow. Granted, some learn this more than others, but to an extent, everyone goes through this because that's life. When we feel stagnated, we think we've seen it all. Nothing new happens.
But the big question on everybody's lips.
Chap lips.
But underneath it all, there is progression. You know, the very experience of stagnation exposes you to useful, intimate detail that, given time, will become harvestable and digestible, and, well, I suppose turned into nuggets of wisdom. Phil Connors seems cursed at first to be stuck living in the same day over and over again. He goes from confused panic to apathy to suicidal depression, but in the end he's left with no other choice than radical acceptance. His own desires to move in a certain direction cease, and he just goes with the flow. And from this flow comes a natural and selfless care for others. He becomes a better person. His character has progressed by no conscious effort from himself, but instead from his exposure to a world that never changes. He is the change, and he doesn't even realise it.
What do you say, you little brat? You have never thanked me. I'll see you tomorrow.
You know, the only reason that I ever watched Groundhog Day in the first place is because my stepdad would always say to me that it's like Groundhog Day for me every single day. And after moving out, I recalled those words without the hostility of feeling attacked, and I wanted to explore his perspective. So I sat down and watched the movie Groundhog Day, and if you haven't seen it, then I really recommend you watch it. It might sound like I spoiled it, but I'm sure that my brief analysis won't cause you to enjoy it any less. I think it's actually like the Bhagavad Gita of movies.
I couldn't imagine a better fate than a long and lustrous winter.